Adding phrasal verbs to your vocabulary will help you sound more advanced, more natural, and will also help you understand native speakers because we use phrasal verbs all the time. So in this lesson, you're going to learn the top 50 phrasal verbs that native speakers use. Now, to make this lesson more interesting and interactive, I'm going to divide the phrasal verbs into groups of 10. And first, you're going to complete a quiz to see how well you know the phrasal verbs. And then I'll explain the phrasal verbs in detail. And then you'll complete another quiz to make sure you really understand how to use them. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to feel very confident using your new phrasal verbs. Let's get started. Question 1. The phrasal verb used to invite someone on a romantic date is... Now, I'm only going to give you 3 seconds for each question. So hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answer. The phrasal verb is to ask out. Question 2. If you like a genre of music, you can say, I'm really country music. I'm really into country music. Remember, I'm going to explain every single phrasal verb in detail, so don't worry if this test is difficult. Number 3, if a movie made you sad, you can say, that movie really me down. That movie really brought me down. Number 4, if you think someone should be happier, you can say cheer up, cheer up. Number 5, do you have time to the dry cleaning on your way home? Do you have time to pick up? Number 6, you see that box? Can you at the post office? Can you drop it off? Number 7, we ended up at home. We ended up staying at home. Number 8, which phrasal verb is used to reject someone or something? To turn down. Number 9, when you complete a form, you can use both fill in and fill out. This is true. Number 10, how did you that Maria was fired? How did you find out? So how did you do with that quiz? Was it easy or difficult? Share your score in the comments, and now I'll explain every phrasal verb in detail with example sentences. Number 1, to ask someone out. Now pay attention to the sentence structure because notice here I'm using someone. You only ask someone out. You don't ask something out. And here's the reason why. When you ask someone out, it's to invite them on a romantic evening together, also known as a date. So to ask someone out, you invite them on a date. A date is a romantic evening spent with someone. Of course, it doesn't have to be an evening. It could be a morning coffee date or an afternoon date as well. But I just said evening because most of the time it is in the evening. So let me give you an example sentence. Why hasn't Jim asked Maria out yet? He's obviously into her. So notice here, why hasn't Jim asked Maria out? Ask someone out. Our someone is Maria. Now, of course, you need the subject who's doing the action. So Jim is inviting Maria on a date. A date is always romantic, right? Now, Maria could say no, and we're going to talk about that later on in one of our phrasal verbs. So let me give you that example again. Why hasn't Jim asked Maria out yet? He's obviously into her. Now you might be wondering, Jennifer, what does that mean? He's obviously into her. Well, that's our next phrasal verb, to be into someone, to be into someone. Now here, I'll point out that you can also be into something. But first, let's talk about to be into someone. When you're into someone, I'm sure you notice based on the context, but it means to like someone romantically. Now, the context is really important because I'm going to give you a musician who I'm really into. I'm really into Jack Johnson. Now, when I say that, oh, I'm really into Jack Johnson, I don't like Jack Johnson romantically, although he is pretty cute, I guess, but I don't like him romantically, but I really like his music. So if you use into someone, it depends on the context, but there is this meaning of liking. And for the most part, that liking is romantic. So if I said Jim is into Maria, he likes her romantically. But if I'm talking about being into a celebrity or a musician, an actor, it's possible that I just like them, but not necessarily romantically. So keep that in mind. Now remember I said you could also be into something. Now in this case, we're talking about liking something, and it's usually an activity or a hobby. So I was really into Jack Johnson when I was really into playing ukulele and playing guitar. Jack Johnson is an amazing musician. He plays guitar and he plays ukulele. So I was really into him, and mainly when I was into playing ukulele and playing guitar. Those are two activities I don't really do much anymore, simply because I don't have time. It isn't a priority for me to do those activities right now at this stage in my life. Although one day I would definitely like to do them again. Now, so you could talk about any hobby or activity. Oh, I'm really into going hiking. I'm really into playing video games. So we use this with hobbies and activities mainly. Our next phrasal verb, to bring someone down. To bring someone down is to make someone unhappy. But there's that transition because that person was happy and then something happened to bring them down, and now they're not happy, or they're at least less happy than they were before. So I could say that movie really brought me down. Now notice here, my subject is the movie. The movie brought me down. I could also use a person. My boss brought me down. So something or someone can bring someone down. That movie brought me down. So I was happy, and then I watched the movie, and now I'm not happy or I'm less happy. Probably because the movie was very sad or depressing, something like that. Number 4, to cheer up. So you can think of this as the opposite. To cheer someone up is to make them happier. Now we commonly use this in the imperative. Cheer up. Cheer up, Julie. Cheer up. Don't be sad. Cheer up. So we commonly use this in the imperative, but you can use it in other ways. For example, I could say, I took my friend out to lunch to cheer her up. To cheer her up. So that's the reason why. I wanted to make her happier. To cheer her up. Number 5, to pick someone or something up. This is one of the most common phrasal verbs. You probably know it. But did you know you can also pick something up? You pick someone up and you also pick something up. And that's when you take an object or a person from one location to another location. So of course, you might know it in the sense of, I pick my kids up after school, or I pick my husband up after work, right? That's probably how you know it. But you can use it with a something. Maybe your husband could call you and say, oh, hey, can you pick milk up on your way home? Can you pick milk up? So you're going to go to a location, the store, get milk, and take it to another location, your home. Can you pick milk up on your way home? It's very common to get a call from someone and they ask you, oh, hey, can you pick this up? Can you pick this up on your way home? And that something is a grocery item or something for your home. So now you know how to use it with a someone and a something. And what's the opposite of to pick someone up? Well, it's to drop someone off. And you can also drop something off. When you drop someone or something off, it's to leave someone or something at a specific location. So of course you could say, I dropped my husband off at work. I dropped my friend off at the airport. Now, you might also ask someone, can you drop this letter off on your way to work? So they take the letter and they leave it somewhere in a different location, the post office or a mailbox. Can you drop this letter off on your way to work? Number 7, to end up. To end up is a very useful phrasal verb. We use it to say that you eventually do something or eventually decide something. So you might say, I ended up asking Julie out. I ended up asking Julie out. Who was our first example? I can't remember. Oh, it wasn't Julie. It was Jim and Maria. So let me give that again. Jim ended up asking Maria out. So remember before I said, why hasn't Jim asked Maria out yet? So now remember, to end up, that's to eventually do something. So after a period of time. So Jim ended up asking Maria out, but she turned him down. Remember I said at the beginning, I'm going to teach you a phrasal verb if Maria, I was going to say Julie again, if Maria says no, well, that's to turn someone down. That's our next phrasal verb, to turn someone down. Now you can also turn something down. Can you think of something that you might say no to? How about a job offer? Something like that. So to turn someone down, to turn something down, is when you receive an invitation or a proposal to do something and you say no. You decline, you refuse, you reject, you say no. So Maria turned Jim down. Now you might also say, I was turned down for the job. I was turned down. Now you could turn that into an active sentence. They turned me down. I was turned down by the company. They turned me down. So in this specific phrasal verb, it is commonly used in the passive. So I would get comfortable with the passive, but you can use it in the active, of course, as well. Number 9, to fill in or to fill out forms. Okay, so notice here I gave you 2 prepositions. I know students get confused. What's the difference between fill in and fill out? There is no difference. So specifically with forms, that's the only time that there is no difference. When you're entering information into a form, you're filling in that form. You're also filling out that form. It doesn't matter which preposition you use. And honestly, I use both of them interchangeably. So I just change between fill in, fill out. I use both, and you can too. So if you go to an office, they might say, after you fill in this form or after you fill out this form, drop it off at reception. Notice, drop it off at reception. So take it to reception and leave it there. Drop it off at reception. Our final phrasal verb, to find out. To find out is when you understand something, you learn something, or you discover something. So maybe, going back to our character Jim, so maybe Jim could say, how did you find out that Maria turned me down? So maybe Jim is a little embarrassed. He thought this was just a secret, nobody knew. But then a friend tried to cheer him up because he knew Maria turned him down after he asked her out. Notice all our phrasal verbs. So Jim could say, how did you find out that Maria turned me down? So how did you discover this? How did you learn this? How did you find this out? And we use this when you want to get information as well. So I might say, I need to find out when the store closes because I have a package I need to drop off, but I don't know when they close. I need to find that out. So learn or discover that specific information. So now that you understand all of these phrasal verbs, how about we do the quiz from the beginning again? And then you can compare your score from the first time to the second time. So let's do that same quiz now. Question 1. The phrasal verb used to invite someone on a romantic date is... The phrasal verb is to ask out. Question 2. If you like a genre of music, you can say, I'm really country music. I'm really into country music. Number 3, if a movie made you sad, you can say, that movie really me down. That movie really brought me down. Number 4, if you think someone should be happier, you can say cheer up, cheer up. Number 5, do you have time to the dry cleaning on your way home? Do you have time to pick up? Number 6, you see that box? Can you at the post office? Can you drop it off? Number 7, we ended up at home. We ended up staying at home. Number 8, which phrasal verb is used to reject someone or something? To turn down. Number 9, when you complete a form, you can use both fill in and fill out. This is true. Number 10, how did you that Maria was fired? How did you find out? Question 1, please bear me while I look up your file. Please bear with me while I look up your file. Question 2, the phrasal verb to attend to means to work on. Number 3, why are you so angry? You need to cool. You need to cool down. Number 4, the phrasal verb for repair is... The phrasal verb for repair is fix up. Number 5, the phrasal verb for to discuss something. so you can reach an agreement is to hash out. To hash out. Number 6, if someone is being too serious, you can tell them to lighten up. Lighten up. You're being too serious. Lighten up. Number 7, after years of studying English, my hard work has finally paid. My hard work has finally paid off. Number 8, we shouldn't rule out a graphic designer. We shouldn't rule out hiring a graphic designer. Number 9, my boss for being late again. My boss chewed me out for being late again. And number 10, let's give everyone a few minutes to before we begin. To settle in. So, how did you do with that quiz? Was it easy, difficult? Share your score in the comments below. And now I'm going to explain every single phrasal verb in detail. So let's do that now. To bear with someone. This is a very common phrasal verb. It has a simple meaning. It means to be patient with someone. So we use this a lot with customer service representatives or anytime someone is providing you with a service. Now, it's very common when that person is providing you with that service to say, please bear with me. Please bear with me. Please be patient. So notice our verb tense, that's in the imperative, So we're starting with the base verb. Now, if you use this verb in other verb tenses, it's an irregular verb. The past simple is bore, and the past participle is, any idea? It's born. That's right, born. With an optional E for spelling, but pronunciation is exactly the same. In the past simple, you could say, I bore with him for 20 minutes. I was patient with him for 20 minutes. And in the past participle, you can use this in the present perfect. You might say, I've borne with you for 20 minutes. Our next phrasal verb is to attend to. Now notice we're using the verb attend. And I could say, last night I attended the party. But that's not a phrasal verb. That's just a regular verb because I don't have a preposition. I attended the party. I went to the party. But if we use the phrasal verb attend to, the meaning is different. I could say I attended to the party. Now, in this case, this means that I worked on or I paid attention to the party. So how could you work on a party? Well, you could work on organizing a party. So organizing all the details, sending out the invitations, buying the food, cleaning the apartment, getting the decorations. I attended to the party. So pay attention because the verb attend and the phrasal verb attend to have different meanings. Our next phrasal verb, to cool down. To cool down. We use this when someone is really angry, upset, or frustrated, and you want them to relax. You can say, cool down, cool down. So let's say a client has been sending you a lot of emails and you're feeling really angry, irritated, annoyed, frustrated with that client. But before you call that client, you should definitely cool down. You need to take a minute and relax because you don't want to call that client when you're angry and frustrated and annoyed. You need to cool down, relax, chill. Our next phrasal verb, to fix something up. When you fix something up, it means you repair it or you change it in order to improve it. Now, in this case, when you change it, it's not necessarily broken. It could be that it's functioning, but you want to improve it. So you make some changes to it. You fix it up. So for example, I could say Sally loves fixing up old cars in her free time. Fixing up old cars. So she repairs them, but it could also mean that she just changes them. Maybe the car is working perfectly, but she changes it. She changes the color or she adds something to it. She fixes it up. Now, this is a very common phrasal verb around the house because there's always something to fix up, right? To change, to repair, to improve. Our next phrasal verb, to hash something out. When you hash something out, it means you talk about something specific with other people, and you do that because you want to get agreement. You want to get agreement on the details. So you can use this when you're planning a conference, planning a party, planning a project, any kind of event. And of course, with a project or conference, there are many details. The date, the time, who's doing what. So you need to hash out those details. You need to talk about them to get agreement. Okay, we agreed to the time of the conference. We hashed it out. We hashed out the time of the conference. Our next phrasal verb, to lighten up. Now remember, I already taught you to cool down, and that's when you're really angry, frustrated, annoyed, and you want to relax. Well, when you tell someone to lighten up, you also want them to relax, but they're not angry, frustrated, or annoyed. They're just being too serious. That's it. They're being too serious. They don't have a sense of humor. So maybe you were joking around with a coworker and they took it too seriously. And you just wanted to have some fun and joke around, but they're too serious. So you might say, lighten up, laugh a little, smile a little. You're too serious. So someone who's always like this, you know, they're not smiling, they're not laughing, they're just always very serious. You might want to tell that person to lighten up, smile, relax, laugh. But just remember, it isn't the same as cool down, because cool down, you're angry and annoyed. Lighten up, you're too serious. That's the difference between the two. Our next phrasal verb, to pay off. Now, when something pays off, it means that you see the benefit of the something. So let's say you spent the last month at home studying for a big exam. And you took the exam and you passed. You got a really high mark. You can say, all my studying paid off. So remember, something pays off. All my studying paid off. I now see the benefit of all the studying I did. So we use this a lot for any kind of work or effort that you put in. Now, it can be mental work for studying for your job, but it can also be physical work as well. So all your dieting, your exercising paid off because now you lost weight, you're stronger, you see the benefit of all your work. So we can use this with both mental work and physical work. Our next phrasal verb, to rule out. We use this when something prevents something else from happening. So a classic example, we have COVID and we have traveling. Now, COVID is preventing traveling from happening, right? So we can say COVID ruled out traveling, right? COVID prevented traveling. COVID ruled out traveling. Our next phrasal verb, to chew someone out. To chew someone out. This is when you tell someone that they've done something wrong, but you tell them angrily. So you don't tell them calmly, you know, you made a mistake, you shouldn't have done that. No, you're angry. So you might yell a little, you might use language that you normally wouldn't. You're angry, somebody did something wrong, and you tell them. So maybe your boss chewed you out because you were late for an important meeting. So your boss was not calm, your boss was angry. Why were you late? You shouldn't have been late. Why haven't I fired you yet? He chews you out. Or maybe you're on a sports team and your coach chewed you out because you missed an important practice. Now, if somebody chews you out and they're really angry, what phrasal verb goes with that? Phrasal verb that we've already learned. Cool down, right? Because if somebody's angry, why were you late? You can say, cool down, relax. And then you can explain why you were late. Our final phrasal verb, to settle in. When you settle in, it means you get comfortable in a new environment. And that new environment is generally a new house, a new school, a new workplace, and of course, at the beginning, you're not comfortable just because everything is new, right? But then you need some time to settle in. So settle in just means to get comfortable in a new environment. So let's say you move to a new city, and a few weeks later, a friend could ask you, oh, have you settled in? Have you settled in? So they're just asking you, do you feel comfortable in your new city? And then you might reply back and say, yeah, I've settled in, or no, I haven't settled in yet. Now that you know how to use all of these phrasal verbs, how about we do the exact same quiz from the very beginning, and you can compare your score from the first time to this time. So let's do that quiz again now. Question 1, please bear me while I look up your file. Please bear with me while I look up your file. Question 2, the phrasal verb to attend to means, to attend to means to work on. Number 3, why are you so angry? You need to cool. You need to cool down. Number 4, the phrasal verb for repair is, the phrasal verb for repair is fix up. Number 5, the phrasal verb for to discuss something so you can reach an agreement is to hash out. To hash out. Number 6, if someone is being too serious, you can tell them to lighten up. Lighten up. You're being too serious. Lighten up. Number 7, after years of studying English, my hard work has finally paid. My hard work has finally paid off. Number 8, we shouldn't rule out a graphic designer. We shouldn't rule out hiring a graphic designer. Number 9, my boss for being late again. My boss chewed me out for being late again. And number 10, let's give everyone a few minutes to before we begin. To settle in. Question 1, the phrasal verb used when you gradually introduce a new rule, policy, or law is, the phrasal verb is to phase in. Question 2, If you want to reserve a specific time in your calendar, you can block it. You can block it off. Question 3, when the fire alarm went off, everyone of the building. Everyone cleared out of the building. Question 4, we'll have to air conditioning this summer. We'll have to do without. Question 5, if someone is removed from a position against their will, they are forced out of that position. Number 6, the phrasal verb used when information becomes clear in one's mind is to sink in. Question 7, the government had to a lot of companies during the pandemic. The government had to bail out. Question 8, oh no, I think I behind my phone. I think I left behind my phone. Question 9, you don't want to miss this amazing opportunity. Miss out on. And question 10, the phrasal verb for arrive is show up. So how did you do with that quiz? Was it easy or was it difficult? Now I'll explain every phrasal verb in detail with the definition and example sentence as well. To phase something in. When you phase something in, it means that you introduce something new, but you introduce it gradually, which means little by little. And generally, what we're introducing is a new law, a new rule, a new regulation, or a new policy. So let's say that your company has a new policy and they're introducing a dress code. A dress code will tell you what you can and cannot wear to work. Now, let's say they announce the new dress code, but they say we're phasing in the new dress code over the next 2 months. Now, why would they want to introduce it little by little? Well, maybe it's because they want to give you time to prepare. You might have to go out and buy new clothing, for example. So you might have to save money to do that and get comfortable doing that as well. So maybe the first week they introduce the new shirts that they want you to wear. And then the next week it's the new shoes. And the following week it's the new pants. And little by little they phase in the new dress code. Number 2, to block off. Now, the thing about phrasal verbs is they're always used in a very specific context. So in this context, a block off, we're talking specifically about time in your calendar or on your schedule. So you're blocking off time. So what does that mean? It means that you reserve that time for a specific task or activity. And you reserve that time so no one else can schedule a meeting with you or no one else can assign you a task during those specific blocks of time because you block them off. So let's say you're preparing for the IELTS and you might block off Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 7 to 9 in your calendar. And that is the time you're going to spend studying for IELTS. Or if you have an important deadline at work, you might block off the entire day. So you might block off Monday and just focus on that task so you can meet the deadline. So this is probably something you do every single day anyway for time management purposes, and now you know how to explain that naturally in English. Number 3, to clear out. And again, remember, phrasal verbs are used in a very specific context. And in this context, we're talking about clearing out of a location, like a restaurant or even a conference, an office, a mall, any location that has a lot of people in it generally. And when people clear out of a location, it means they simply leave the location, but that location then becomes empty. So the majority or all of the people leave a location. That's when you clear out of a location. So let's say you go to lunch at a restaurant around 1:30 and it's really busy. You get the last available table and you're eating your lunch, you're talking to your coworker, and then around 2:30, you look around and you notice that you're the only table left in the restaurant. And remember, the restaurant was full when you got there. So you could turn to your coworker and say, wow, it really cleared out, which means everybody left the restaurant. Number 4, to do without something. This is a really useful one because it's a fact of life. You're going to have to do without certain things at certain times in your life. So when you do without something, it means you manage despite the lack of. And it's the lack of the something that you do without. So let me give you an example. Maybe finances are a little tight, you didn't get that bonus you were hoping for, so you might say, we'll have to do without a cleaner for the next few months. Do without a cleaner. So a cleaner is someone who cleans your house, a house cleaner. Now, previously, a lot of people called this a maid. I know many people in certain countries still call it a maid. In North America, it's considered outdated and even a little politically incorrect to call someone a maid. We now call them house cleaners. So just so you know, it's more politically correct to use house cleaner. So you have to manage your day-to-day, manage your house despite the lack of a house cleaner. We have to do without a house cleaner because I didn't get the bonus. So you can use this in a personal context like I just gave you, or you can use this in a work context as well. Maybe your assistant quit and you're having trouble finding a new assistant. So you might say, well, I guess I'll have to do without an assistant for the next month, which means you have to manage all your work without an assistant. Do without something. It's a very useful phrasal verb because we all have to do without certain things at certain points in our life. Our next phrasal verb, to force out. This is a very useful business phrasal verb. You're going to hear it in the media, newspapers, all the time. When someone is forced out, it means that they are asked to leave their position, but it wasn't their decision to do so. Notice the sentence structure I used. I put this in the passive, to be forced out. For example, the CEO was forced out after the scandal. So there's a scandal. Obviously, it didn't look good for the CEO. So the company wanted him to leave. The CEO himself did not want to leave, but the company wanted him to leave. So the CEO was forced out. Now, if you use it in the active sentence, you'd be talking about who forced out the CEO. So you might say the board of directors forced the CEO out after the scandal. So you can absolutely use this in the active, but it's very commonly used in the passive. Our next phrasal verb, number 6, to sink in. When something sinks in, it becomes clear in your mind. And the something that's sinking in is information, news, an event. For example, it took him a while before his mother's death sunk in. So his mother died, but that fact, that event didn't sink in for some time. It didn't become clear. So he didn't process it, he didn't fully understand it, he didn't fully accept it as a fact, as a reality for some time. So the event, his mother's death, didn't sink in. So we do use this a lot for tragic events, but we can also use this with difficult or complicated information. For example, let's say your coworker is explaining a new accounting software, and it's pretty technical. So your coworker is explaining it quite quickly. And you might say, give me a minute to let that sink in. So that is the information your coworker was just explaining. And for that, the information to sink in, it means for you to fully understand it, to fully process it. So we can use it for tragic events, but we can also use this for complicated information. Number 7, to bail out. This is another must-know business phrasal verb, but you can also use it in your personal life as well. When you bail someone out, it means that you rescue them, and you rescue them from a financially difficult situation. So remember that CEO that was forced out in our previous example? Well, maybe he had a sister that bailed him out. His sister bailed him out, which means his sister helped him financially. So maybe she gave him a place to stay because he couldn't afford his rent. She gave him food because he couldn't afford groceries. And she gave him money because he didn't have any. His sister bailed him out. So we can use it in a personal context, but this is commonly used in a business context in the sense of the government bailing out companies because they're about to go bankrupt. And why would the government do that? Well, because that company is important for the economy. For example, in the US, the company Chrysler, which is an automobile company, they've been bailed out by the government multiple times. Chrysler as a company has almost gone bankrupt multiple times, and the government has come in and bailed the company out. They bailed Chrysler out. Number 8, to leave something behind. This is a very useful one in your everyday vocabulary. When you leave something behind, it simply means that you forget something at a specific location. So we do this all the time, right? We go to a restaurant, a cafe, we put our phone on the counter, we get our coffee, and we go. And oh no, I left my phone behind. I think I left my phone behind at the cafe. So it's just the same as saying, I think I forgot my phone at the cafe. You can use this with any object. You can leave behind your keys, your sweater, your jacket, your computer, whatever you want. So this is a very useful one. So what about you? Have you ever left something important behind? Maybe you left your cell phone behind, or your laptop behind, or important family photos behind. Have you ever left something behind? Let us know in the comments. Number 9, to miss out on something. To miss out on something. And this is when you miss an important opportunity or an experience that shouldn't have been missed. So let's say that you work for Tesla and Elon Musk was making an appearance at your office that day, and you were going to get to meet Elon Musk. But your bus was late and you didn't get to work on time and you didn't get to meet Elon Musk. You, my friend, just missed out on an opportunity of a lifetime. You missed out on meeting Elon Musk. So you could say, I can't believe I missed out. You can just end it there. I can't believe I missed out. If you want to continue, you can say, I can't believe I missed out on meeting Elon Musk. And finally, number 10, to show up. To show up has a very simple definition. It means to appear or arrive. native speakers don't really use appear or arrive. We use show up. For example, what time did you show up to the party? I would never say, what time did you arrive to the party? I wouldn't say that. That sounds unnatural, outdated, too formal. I would say, what time did you show up? What time did you show up to the party? What time did you show up last night? Now, let's say you got to work late one day and your boss is standing at your desk as you're walking to your desk and you're 45 minutes late, and your boss might look at you and say, "Oh, how nice of you to finally show up." That's obviously sarcastic, but this happens a lot if you get to a party really late, or even if you're just having dinner at home with your husband or your wife. But dinner is normally at 7 and you don't get home till 7:30, and your husband or your wife has been waiting and waiting and waiting. When you get home, they might say, "Oh, how nice of you to finally show up." So we use this a lot in a sarcastic way when someone is late, but we also use it just to talk about getting somewhere. "Oh, I showed up at," and then you say the time. So now that you feel more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do the exact same quiz again, and you can compare your score from the first time to the second time. So let's do that quiz again now. Question 1. The phrasal verb used when you gradually introduce a new rule, policy, or law is? The phrasal verb is to phase in. Question 2, if you want to reserve a specific time in your calendar, you can block it. You can block it off. Question 3, when the fire alarm went off, everyone of the building. Everyone cleared out of the building. Question 4, we'll have to air conditioning this summer. We'll have to do without. Question 5, if someone is removed from a position against their will, they are forced out of that position. Number 6, the phrasal verb used when information becomes clear in one's mind is to sink in. Question 7, the government had to a lot of companies during the pandemic. The government had to bail out. Question 8, oh no, I think I behind my phone. I think I left behind my phone. Question 9, you don't want to miss this amazing opportunity. Miss out on. And question 10, the phrasal verb for arrive is show up. Question 1, this new app I downloaded, so much memory. This new app I downloaded takes up. Question 2, when a company expands into other locations, it branches out. Question 3, the phrasal verb used when you write something down is jot down. Question 4, can you, the performance reports next week, can you carry out? Question 5, I'm having a hard time, the assignment. I'm having a hard time keeping up with. Question 6, If you enter your information in a form, you fill in or fill out. So C. Question 7. The CEO might this week. The CEO might drop in. Question 8. If you delay an event, you push it back. Question 9. If you cancel an event, you call it off. And question 10. I'm not sure who's presenting. We're still the details. We're still sorting out the details. So how did you do with that quiz? Share your score in the comments, and now I'll explain each phrasal verb in detail. 1. To take up. This means to occupy or to fill. Now, we use this specifically with two different nouns. You can take up time and you can take up space, and they're both very commonly used. For example, I could say, this meeting took up my whole morning. So it occupied or filled the amount of time. Now, we can also use this with space. For example, I need a new couch because my couch takes up too much space. So it occupies or fills space. So remember, you can use this with both time and space, and they're both very commonly used. Number 2, to branch out. Now this means to expand, and we use this specifically in a business context. So let's say you're in a meeting and you're discussing how to increase your profits. You might suggest branching out into new markets. So if you only sell in North America, you can branch out, expand, and sell in Europe or in Asia, Africa, for example. We need to branch out into new markets. Number 3, this is a fun one, to jot down. Now you would probably understand this from context. In the meeting, I jotted down a few notes. I jotted down a few notes. So it's the exact same thing as write down. I wrote down a few notes, but it's very commonly used. So someone might ask you, maybe your boss or a colleague even, might say, hey, can you jot this down? And then they might give you a number or a date or a location, and you write it down. Now, of course, not many people use pen and paper anymore, right? We take electronic notes. But if your colleague asks you to jot something down, you can absolutely take out your phone and make a note in your phone. Jot it down in your phone. Write it down in your phone. So this still applies even though we don't really use pen and paper much. Number 4, to carry out. This means to perform or to conduct, and we use this specifically in a business context. For example, next week we're carrying out our customer surveys, our student surveys. We're carrying out our surveys. We're conducting them. We're performing them. So I'm just going to do the survey. That's the simplest way to say it. Next week, we're doing the surveys. We're carrying out the surveys. Number 5, this is an important one, so make sure you jot it down. Number 5, to keep up with something. This means to make sufficient progress on. Let's say that you have this many orders, and it's your job to fulfill those orders. If you fulfill this many, you've kept up with the orders. You've made sufficient progress. But if you fulfill this many, or this many, or this many, or anything less than the total number of orders, then you haven't kept up with the orders. You haven't made sufficient progress on. Now, of course, you can use this with many things other than orders. You can use it with your studies, your reading list, your chores, your performance reports, your filing, your scheduling. You can use it with many, many, many other tasks. Number 6, to fill out or to fill in a form. Now, this is one that confuses a lot of students, and they ask me, do I fill out a form? Do I fill in the form? What's the difference? The reality is there is no difference, specifically when we're talking about a form. Now, when you have to fill out an application, you could also fill in an application. Fill out your passport renewal. You can fill in your passport renewal. In this specific context, there's no difference. Number 7, to drop in. This is a great phrasal verb because you can use it both in a business context or a social context. Now, to drop in simply means to visit. So if you're talking to a friend and you're planning to visit that friend, you can say, how about I drop in Saturday morning? How about I visit Saturday morning? Now, in a business context, you might have a client that wants to drop in, that wants to visit, or you might drop in on a client just to say hello and to keep that relationship going. So you can use this in both a social and a business context. Number 8, to push back. This means to delay or postpone in the context of a scheduled event. So a scheduled event like a meeting. Let's say the meeting was scheduled for Monday, but everyone is really busy on Monday. Well, then push the meeting back until Wednesday. Postpone it until Wednesday. Now, you can use this in a social context. So you might be planning your wedding anniversary, and it's your 10-year wedding anniversary. And the actual date is March 30th, but everyone is busy. So you might push it back until the middle of April so more people can attend. Well, everyone's busy, so let's push back the party until next week, until 2 weeks from now. So you can push back a scheduled event, which means to delay or postpone. Number 9, to call off. Now, this means to cancel a scheduled event. So remember in our last one, to push back, you delay or postpone. But the other alternative is simply to cancel it. But generally, when you call something off, it's because there were some problems or issues associated with it. But the problem or issue could be a scheduling conflict and just people couldn't attend. So let's say you were planning a conference for the summer, but nobody registered because everyone's really busy in the summer. So you might discuss it with your team and say, let's call off the conference. Attendance is too low, so let's call it off. Let's cancel it. Now, you can also use this in a social context. You might call off your wedding. But if you canceled your wedding, then most likely there was a problem, an issue, a big one, right? So in that context, in a social event, most people will wonder what happened. Why did they call off their wedding? Why did they call off their anniversary? They're going to assume that something is wrong. And number 10, to sort out. This means to organize or to fix if there's a problem. For example, I need to sort out my travel plans. So it could mean I just need to organize them. So I need to decide when I'm going to travel, what airline I'm going to use, what hotel I'm going to use. I need to sort out my travel plans. But I can also use it if there's some sort of problem and I need to fix it. For example, my flight was canceled, so I need to sort out my travel plans. I need to fix this problem with my plans. So to sort something out, you can organize it or you can fix it if there's a problem. Now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, let's do the exact same quiz from the beginning again, and you can compare your score from the first time to the second time. So let's do that same quiz now. Question 1. This new app I downloaded, so much memory. This new app I downloaded takes up. Question 2. When a company expands into other locations, it branches out. Question 3. The phrasal verb used when you write something down is jot down. Question 4. Can you the performance reports next week? Can you carry out? Question 5, I'm having a hard time, the assignment. I'm having a hard time keeping up with. Question 6, if you enter your information in a form, you fill in or fill out. So C. Question 7, the CEO might this week. The CEO might drop in. Question 8, if you delay an event, you push it back. Question 9, if you cancel an event, you call it off. And question 10, I'm not sure who's presenting. We're still the details. We're still sorting out the details. Question 1, you're not going to paying $500 for that. You're not going to talk me into. Question 2, Mariah, the sales proposal yesterday. Mariah drew up. Question 3, good news, because everyone, we met the deadline. Because everyone stepped it up. Question 4, if you keep skipping breaks, you're going to burn out. Question 5, that's a great point. You should, at the meeting. You should bring it up. Question 6, who do you the most in your family? Who do you look up to? Question 7, how long do we need to at the party? How long do we need to stick around? Question 8, your tires look really, you should get new ones. Your tires look really worn out. Question 9, the seller tried to, so we didn't buy it. The seller tried to rip us off. Question 10, I noticed that this report, our production costs. This report honed in on. How did you do with the quiz? Was it easy or difficult? Share your score in the comments, and don't worry if it was hard, because now I'll explain every phrasal verb in detail. Number 1, to rip off. We use this when someone is selling something or buying something and the buyer feels that the price is too high compared to the value of whatever they're buying. For example, I can't believe I paid $200 for that. She ripped me off. Now notice the sentence structure. You rip someone off. She ripped me off. Another example, she told everyone that I ripped her off, but it was a fair price. So just because someone claims you ripped them off, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Number 2, to wear out. We use this when something is damaged or weakened because of age, it's old, or because of use. You've used it a lot. For example, I wore out my tennis shoes last summer. If someone said that to me, I would assume they played a lot of tennis last summer. They played so much tennis that they wore out their shoes. They became damaged from use, from continually playing tennis. We also use this in an adjective form, to be worn out. So it would be very common to say, I need to buy new tennis shoes because mine are worn out. So of course are, because shoes is plural and we need the plural form of the verb to be. Mine, my tennis shoes are worn out. So both forms are very common. Number 3, to draw up. We use this when you need to prepare paperwork, and generally that paperwork is for a contract, an agreement, a proposal, generally something that 2 people need to sign or agree on to make it official. For example, I asked my lawyer to draw up the papers. Whenever you're dealing with a lawyer, the papers are going to be official. So this is a perfect time to use to draw up. Or you could say, we're waiting for our bank to draw up the mortgage agreement. So that's another very official document that you need to sign, and you can use the phrasal verb to draw up. Number 4, to burn out. This is a phrasal verb that has gotten a lot of attention recently, especially with the pandemic, because to burn out, this is when you feel exhausted mentally or physically from prolonged stress. Stress of work, stress of a situation like a pandemic, stress of a family situation like a divorce or an illness, something like that, but a prolonged period. You can be stressed out for a day, but when you burn out, it means you've had that stress for a long period of time, several weeks, several months, or even several years. For example, I burned out at my last job. So perhaps I was working so much that I went through this period of prolonged stress. I burned out. Another example, I burned out after caring for my aging parents. So caregivers often experience burnout, so you can use this in a work situation or you can use it in a personal situation as well. Number 5, to look up to someone. So notice we have 2 prepositions, look up to and then someone. We use this when you admire someone or you respect someone. So I could say, I looked up to him like a father. So of course I admire and respect my father, and I'm comparing the situation to someone else. I looked up to him, I admired him like a father. Another example, I really look up to my boss. So you admire your boss, or you respect your boss, you hold your boss in high regard. So you can use this in a work situation, you can look up to people, and you can use this in a social situation, a family situation. You can have many different people in your life that you look up to for different reasons. Number 6, to step up. Now that's the phrasal verb, but we most commonly use it in the expression to step it up. Notice that it's very important to step it up, to step it up. This simply means to work harder or to try harder. Now, you can say, we need to step it up if we're going to meet the deadline. So you have this deadline, you need to work harder. So it's the same as saying we need to work harder if we're going to meet the deadline. Step it up. Now, what is this it in the expression? Well, the it would represent work or effort. We need to step up our work. We need to step up our effort. Step it up. I encourage you to use it that way, step it up, because you'll sound like a native speaker. We have a really common expression with this, step it up, and then you add the two words, a notch. Step it up a notch. If you look at a dial, a notch is one move on the dial. So it represents a little bit, a small amount. Step it up a notch. It's just like saying step it up a little bit. So that's just a common expression. You need to step it up a notch if you want to meet the deadline. So you can use it with a notch, it's very common, or you can use it without. Number 7, to hone in on. This is another two preposition phrasal verb. We have hone in on. Hone in on something, and this means to really focus on something, to put all your attention on something specific. For example, if we want to get more customers, we should really hone in on small business owners. So maybe right now you're not being very specific and you're looking at all customers, but you want to hone in on one specific segment of the population, small business owners. So you're going to focus on them. You're going to hone in on them. Another example, for the presentation, we should really hone in on South America. So maybe you're a global company and you have branches all over the world, but for this specific presentation, you're going to hone in on one specific part of the world, South America. Now, many native speakers, not students, many native speakers mistakenly say home in on. We need to home in on. And that's because in pronunciation, they're very similar. Hone in, home in. And hone, what's that? It's not really used very much, but everybody knows the word home. But this isn't correct. The expression is not home in on. The expression is hone in on. So make sure you get that both in pronunciation, hone, and in spelling as well. And if you hear a native speaker say home in on, they're incorrect. Number 8, this is a must-know phrasal verb, to bring up. And this is when you begin a discussion on a specific topic. For example, if you're in a staff meeting, it would be very common for the boss or whoever's leading the meeting to say, before we end the meeting, does anyone have anything to bring up? Does anyone have a specific topic they want to discuss? Does anyone have anything to bring up? Or after the meeting, you might tell another colleague, I didn't have a chance to bring up the marketing proposal. So you didn't have a chance to discuss this specific topic, the marketing proposal. Maybe you ran out of time. Number 9, to talk into. And the sentence structure is to talk someone into something. And this means to convince someone to do something. For example, she talked me into helping her move. She convinced me to help her move. So when someone uses this, oh, she talked me into helping her move, it gives you the impression that the person didn't really want to do the activity, but somebody convinced them. But please, I really need your help. I'll buy pizza. Or maybe you could say, my team talked me into bringing up the bonus at the staff meeting. So notice I use bring up, discuss a specific topic, the bonus. My team talked me into bringing up the bonus. Now, because maybe discussing the bonus is a little bit of a sensitive issue and nobody wants to do it. but your team convinced you, lucky you, so they talked you into it. And number 10, to stick around. This is a must-use phrasal verb. You can use it in a social setting or a professional setting. To stick around means to stay in a location for a period of time. So let's say you're at this beautiful park with a friend, and after an hour or so, your friend has to leave, and they say, "Do you want to share an Uber?" And you say, "No, I'm gonna stick around a little bit longer." So you're going to stay in a specific location, the park, for a period of time. It's unknown how long you'll stay. That doesn't really matter. It's just the fact you're going to stay. I'm gonna stick around a little bit longer. It's such a beautiful day. I'm gonna stick around. Now you can also use this in the negative. I can't stick around very long because I have a meeting. Although it's a beautiful day, I can't stick around very long. I have a meeting to get back to. Now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, let's do that same quiz again. So here are the questions. You need to choose which phrasal verb best completes the sentence. Here are the questions. Hit pause now, complete the quiz, and whenever you're ready, hit play, and I'll share the answers. So go ahead and hit pause now. Welcome back. So how did you do on this quiz? Let's find out. Here are the answers. So hit pause, review the answers, and whenever you're ready, hit play and come back to the video. Now keep expanding your vocabulary with this lesson, and you can get your free speaking guide on how to speak English fluently and confidently in 6 easy steps. You can get it from my website right here. And now get started with your next lesson.